So children, I'll have to start barriers to the communication in your commerce. Okay, so let us start with the barriers. Like, what are the difficulties which are being observed in the process of communication? Is it clear? Like, first is the physical barriers, second is the personal or psychological barriers, third is systematic or language barriers, then fourth is status barrier, then organizational barriers. Okay, so there are various barriers. Let us discuss one by one. Okay, the first barrier is physical barrier. Communication is of two-way process. Distance between the sender and the receiver, is it clear, of the message is an important barrier. All right, if the distance is too much, okay, all right, then noise and environmental disturbances are other physical barriers to communication. Is it clear? The first physical barrier is the distance. Second physical barrier is the noise and environmental disturbances. Okay, and then our telephonic conversation may not be effective due to high level of noise or mechanical defect. Is it clear? So the first barrier in the process of communication is physical barrier, and communication is the two-way process. We know communication takes place between sender and receiver. So if the distance of the sender and receiver is too much, that create a barrier, and if there is too much noise and there are too much environmental disturbances are there, then that also create physical barriers. That is the first barrier. Full point you people have to write. Second point, personal or psychological barrier. So apart from the physical barriers like distance, noise, environmental disturbances, there are some personal barriers also. Is it clear? Personal may be of sender or maybe of receiver. See the point in the book. Personal factors like judgment, emotion, and social values create a psychological distance between the sender and the receiver. So it's not only the distance is place-wise distance. The distance of a sender and receiver can be created maybe due to somebody become one of the side is judgmental, maybe one of the side is emotional, maybe the social values of one of the side is not up to the mark, then create problem between the communication between the sender and the receiver. Is it clear? So see the line, all of you. Personal factors like judgment, these points you people have to write. Emotion and social values create a psychological distance between the sender and the receiver. So what are the psychological distance? Judgment, emotion, and social values. Then prejudice, inferiority, superiority complex, attitude, time pressure affect interpretation of messages. Okay, then credibility gap, that is inconsistency between what one says and what one does, may create misunderstanding. Okay, so I think this is clear to all of you. Then third one is semantic or language barrier. Yes, maybe the sender is using some language which is not being the receiver may not be familiar with that, then definitely it will create a barrier in the process of communication. See, the same word may convey different meaning to different people. People interpret words and symbols in terms of their own experience and thinking. Yes, if sender has sent some word, okay, then that word or that symbol is understood by receiver in what form, that also create a barrier in the process of communication, because one word if I'll give to 30 people, then 30 people will interpret that word in 30 different ways. Is it clear? So that is the problem of the language barrier. Okay, means the word or the message or anything which is being sent by the sender, and if it is received by the receiver, and in what way the receiver is interpreting it, that also create a barrier. Okay, then status barrier. Superior subordinate relationship in the formal organization structure may obstruct free flow of information. Okay, those who are suffering from superiority, then a manager may convey only selected information to his subordinates. so as to maintain status differences. He may feel that communicates problem on result which affect his ability and judgment. His position as a superior would be undetermined. Okay, so sometime what happened, some of them are superior by their post. All right, so when they communicate something to the to their subordinate, then they maintain a kind of the dignity. All right, that maintenance of the dignity may create a problem for the subordinate to understand what actually, because he cannot go too much close in that condition because he is a senior. He need to maintain a gap. So that's why he has to explain to whom he is explaining, to the subordinate. So he cannot be very close, he cannot become very familiar. By maintaining his position, he has to explain. So maybe the receiver will not able to understand in that ways. That may create a problem. So status barrier, okay, because a high post, the authorities have to maintain their status to have a link with their subordinate. So that may create a problem of that may create a barrier in the process of communication. So this is the fourth one. Okay, then fifth one, organizational barriers. Yeah, if the organization structure is complex, comprising several layers of management, breakdown or distortion in communication may arise. Yeah, if the organization where people are working, and if the organization structure is very complicated, then definitely there will be a problem of what? Communication. Definitely there will be a problem of communication. Is it clear? So that create a problem. So due to long lines of communication, flow of information get delayed and distorted. Okay. Then inattention. Inadequate attention to the message is likely to create misunderstanding. Obviously, if sender has sent the message and the receiver is not paying attention, that much attention which was needed to be paid, then also it will create a barrier in the process of communication. Okay, then inattention may arise due to busyness or because of the message is contrary to the explanation and belief of the receiver. Obviously, maybe the receiver is busy, maybe what message is sent, the receiver view is just contrary, just opposite, or maybe the receiver is believing something which is not sent by the sender. So that may create. So that's why he will not take interest. He will not pay attention to the message which is being sent by the sender, which will create barrier in the process of communication. Then premature evaluation. Obviously, if somebody is evaluating, if somebody is doing judgment before reading or before listening to the entire message, क्या होता है कि पहले 2-3 लाइन पढ़ लिया, बस वहीं पे judgment बना लिया, and then he will not go through the whole message, then definitely it will create a barrier in the process of communication. This is and then other barriers. What are the other barriers? Like people who want to maintain status quo, resist change may overlook messages containing new ideas to introduce changes. Due to choices of appropriate medium, the message may be misunderstood. Okay, lack of time, pressure of work, unclarified assumption are some other barriers which create a barrier in the process of communication. Is it clear? So these are the barriers to the process of communication. We need to discuss the difficulties, the measures which help to remove these barriers, that I'll complete tomorrow. So I'm going to complete your directing chapter tomorrow, children, and then I think we'll left with 3 more chapters. Okay, so I think most probably by the end of December your commerce syllabus will be complete. Okay, thank you, children.